All right, welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Wednesday, November 16th, 2022. If you've not done so already, give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, or come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, markets basically asleep all day long. If I had known it was going to be like this, I would have slept in myself. So take a look at the Dow here, finishing flat, down just 4 basis points. Look at this tight range here on the DIA. The Russell actually diverged a little bit. You're seeing kind of a disconnect here. This is typical OPEX type of stuff here. Whipsaw Wednesday, they call it the Wednesday of OPEX. You're seeing the Russell sell off and not seeing that reflected in the Dow or really the S&P, the NASDAQ a little bit this morning, but kind of disjointed from those. The indices are kind of disjointed from each other a little bit today. Again, that's very typical. Today was more or less just a theta burn day here, and really a complete nothing burger pretty much across the board. There are a few things happening outside of that, and we'll get into that in a second. We do have Nvidia earnings tonight. I believe they report around, I want to say I read 5 o'clock. I think they report a little bit later here, but that is going to be big because the semiconductors today did put in what I would call an evening star. So you got to run up here pretty much just straight up with no pullbacks or consolidation, and then we gapped up and put in a hanging man into that 200-day moving average, and then we gapped down today and sold off pretty much all day long. Looks like they saved us in the last 30 minutes or so, but it's not like it was anything to write home about. So that looks like an evening star reversal, gap up, flush there. Also a failed breakout of this downsloping blue trend line. So this is going to be important. Nvidia really needs to deliver here on earnings to save this, because there's a lot of air here. If we look on the hourly from that gap, there's no supports built up here. So the semis are liable to fall if Nvidia misses or if the market just reacts negatively. There's not a lot of support here, and you've got a big fat gap on the charts. There is some support at 200, but if that behaves negatively, that's not going to be a good thing for the market and for tech specifically. But you guys know semiconductors need to be leading, and they were for a week or so. They were starting to creep up, and that was kind of a little bit of a clue that the CPI number was going to be favorable, the market was going to react favorable. But now looking in a bit of a dangerous position. I don't like when you don't build support after a move. It's not really a good sign here, and again, we need the semiconductors to lead the market. But again, Nvidia can change everything. As far as the market is concerned, there's no real problems here. Again, today was a total nothing burger if there ever was one. Spiders here, you move up, and this is moving sideways. If we take a look at the ES, it's a little bit clearer to see. You do have a nice inside bar bull flag starting to form, and you're above the 150 and 200 moving average, so it's hanging in there okay. I don't really see any problems right now, at least from a technical standpoint. And obviously today did not add anything of value, just a consolidation day, a theta burn day. But it does seem like the market is starting to kind of climb the wall of worry here. There's problems out here. Just forget about FTX. If we flip over here to TradingView, I'm going to show you guys the yield curves. And here's the 210. Remember that tail we got there? That was a pretty good tail. And we said, what if that actually filled? Well, we're there now, and we're inverted on the 210 by 67, almost 68 basis points now. The 3-month 10-year, which very quietly, I noted last week on the CPI, this inverted very sharply, and that has continued to trend lower. It's now inverted by almost 55 basis points. This is not good. This is not good anyway. You slice or dice it. Bonds are basically screaming that there's a major slowdown coming. And meanwhile, the Fed is right now, as we speak, debating whether they should hike by 50 or 75 basis points. Let me repeat that. The bond market's telling you we're slowing down and we're skidding to a halt, and the Fed's going to still hike. And this is the environment that we're in right now. If we take a look at the Fed funds rate, and what else do they do, right? It's at 3.08 right now, currently. It has to get in line with the 2-year, which is still at 4.36. That's even with this recent little rally that the 2-year note has had. It's still 130 basis points away. So maybe they could slow down. Yes, I do expect them to do 50 here the next month. I think that's kind of the consensus now anyway. But they still have a long way to go. And inflation is still at 7.5%, or however, 7.7 they say. Meanwhile, the yield curves are screaming at us that there's major problems. This is not good. So really, really unique situation we're in right now. And then you look over at the stock market, and the stock market doesn't care. So we're really climbing the wall of worry. We have, the FTX, there's chatter of more desks going under now. And I said this yesterday, and I believe the day before. It's really like it feels like we're kind of in the calm before the storm, or it doesn't matter until it does kind of scenario. And that's really kind of the vibe I'm getting here. The market, the question is, do we get up to 410? Do we have another leg up here, like we did in mid-August, early August to mid-August? Or do they just keep us held up until OPEX? This was the OPEX week last time. I talked about this yesterday. We topped out on Tuesday, and then we kind of just rolled over. They kept us propped up, and then it wasn't until the next week they started to let us go down. Kind of a similar pattern here this time, but just major problems out there. That's all I'm really going to say here. Again, this market, it's defying gravity right now. There was a lot of people off sides with that CPI number. It was a gamma squeeze, but it really feels to me like we're on the precipice of things mattering all at once. So that's really all I'm going to make out of it here. Again, a really sideways day today. We'll see what we get tomorrow. Probably more backing and filling. We'll see if they push us down. I know there was a big order on the book map. I don't have it open right now, but around 39.30. So that could be an area to pull back on for the ES. As far as the spiders are concerned, we never really back tested 390. So I think that level would actually coincide with that 39.30 area on the ES. So that could be a level if we start to fade a little bit. But technically speaking, we still have, like I said a minute ago, you still have that bullish inside bar on the daily time frame of the ES and the spider. So there's really no problems. You can go down here and touch this 100 moving average. There's nothing to say that can't happen, and it wouldn't break the pattern by any means. But the thing with this market, I mean, it feels very fragile here. We talked about the VIX yesterday and how much it moved off of a rumor in a half an hour, and it's back. It got back down today. They kept it down today, but I mean, it's doing its little falling wedge thing into this trend line, and it's starting to base. So you just get the feeling that we're really getting compressed here, and I think they're going to try and keep us held up at least until OPEX. After that, we'll see what happens, but you can't imagine, and the interest rates, with them hiking rates, has to do with FTX blowing up. These Ponzi schemes don't just fall apart because, right? How does a Ponzi scheme fall apart? They run out of investors' money. Well, how do they run out of money? They can't borrow. They can't get they can't borrow against the higher rates. So this whole thing just feels like a storm here that's brewing. But for right now, hey, we have a bullish inside bar on the ES, and so everything's great for now. As far as the rest of the market is concerned, we talked a little bit about the semis. Again, I'm going to kind of just breeze through this a little bit today. It's really, it was a sideways day in the market for the most part. You've seen the same kind of pattern here on IGV as the SMH, kind of a gap up, much less extended than the semis are, but down 2% with the gap down today. It's still holding that 266 area. Would not want to see it break that because, again, big air pocket there and a big gap to fill below that on the IGV. But again, we'll see what it does. We'll see if Nvidia can save the market here with their earnings later. Dow Transports down 2.12% on the day, basically holding that 200-day moving average. Again, a big move up. It's pulling back here. I don't really see any problems except for there's still a lot of resistance up there at this red bar, and you're basically seeing this react to that right now. But again, it's just basically stalled out at the 200 moving average. No real problems here for the DJT. Flipping over to XHB, again, kind of looking like the spiders, looking like the ES, a little bit of a bullish inside bar, still trying to consolidate that 200 moving average. So again, nothing to say this can't get up to that 66 handle. here in the near term if we do get a bid, and that would coincide most likely with that 410, 412 area on the spiders. ITB, same thing. I did a little bit more work on this last night, and I think this can actually get up to about 65. I said yesterday it would probably run into double top there. I just changed that. I did a little bit more work. This can get up to 65, 65.50, maybe 66 on an overshoot. But this pattern's still okay. But again, it's going to take the market, and it's going to take the market to participate with it. But nothing wrong with that pattern there. It's a nice clean pattern there for the ITB. VNQ did back off as well, down almost 1% on the day. Again, still has to hold that green bar low. If it does, it's safe. If not, the bottom can fall out of this. But for right now, it's holding up, so we'll just leave it at that. XLF down 48 basis points. Again, trying the flag up here. This is already very overbought. We'll see what it does here. It's holding up for now. Let's not make too much more out of it. Again, just an inside day across the board. Broker dealers were down a little bit more, down 2.25. So a little bit more of a retrace. A lot of resistance up there in that red bar, like tons. Big sell off there, and then that's where you retrace to. Generally going to be those buyers turn into sellers, so that's how that works. But yeah. So it did back off a little bit here today, and again, we'll just not make too much out of it for now. Crude down just under 2% on the day. Again, nothing really too new to add. It's been in a choppy range for quite a while, and just digesting this big move here. You guys know the levels here, the blue trend line, and then 95 on the upside if we were to get up there. XLE down about 2% on the day. Again, kind of watching this rising wedge. I'm not absolutely in love with it, but it is something to keep an eye on here. Notice how the bottom trend line kind of coincides with that 20 moving average here. So that will be something to keep an eye on moving forward. But XLE down with most of everything else today. Again, let's not make too much out of it. There's no technical damage, at least not yet. XOP down just under 3%, and the OIH down 2% as well. So a little bit of a dip here in the energy names right now. Again, let's not make too much out of anything. It was a very, very benign day, all things considered. Nat gas did have a nice little bid in the afternoon. I'm looking, yeah, it's really kind of about an hour or so ago. If I can get to my intraday. There we go. Nice bid there on the intraday. Again, still just in this choppy range. Look at these massive bids and sell-offs that Nat gas gets on a regular basis, and really nothing to show for it. Again, if it wasn't for these two outlier candles, I'd say this is a bull flag. But for right now, I'm just not in love with the pattern. I don't like those two outlier candles. I'm not sure what it wants to do. I'd prefer a retrace, maybe 540, 530, somewhere in that area. And if you can do that and put in a higher low, then I'd like the pattern a lot more. But overall, nat gas hanging in there. Let's not make too much out of that either. Dollar index, nice tail yesterday. Inside day today, nothing terrible going on here. Again, I still think this probably wants to go down and test 104. It had a nice sell-off there. It's basically just trying to find its footing here after that big dump. But I still think it probably wants to get down to that 104 level. And that will, if that were to happen, that would likely coincide again with that level there on the spiders, the 410-ish, 412 area. Gold basically flattish to negative here on the day. And again, another thing too with bonds, if we look at gold and we look at the 30-year, they're both moving higher. In a recession, gold does well because the bankers have determined that it's more attractive versus the lower yield. I don't make the rules, I just follow them, but gold is also it's sending that signal as well. So you're seeing that positive correlation here with gold, and really I'm seeing all the boxes kind of get checked here. That's really kind of what I'm trying to say with this. The yield curves, 30-year bidding, gold bidding, crude not really bidding either. So energy kind of running into some headwinds, although XLE is still holding up. I think a lot of that is just the FOMO trade personally, but in any case, gold holding up here. If it puts in a flag pattern, it can move higher. If not, it's probably got to go back and test 17.25. But for right now, no problem. Silver, same thing. No issues here. It's just kind of consolidating above that 200 moving average. I would like it to stay up in this range and let that 20 moving average catch up to price. If it can do that, that will act like rocket fuel, and it should get up to that 23, maybe even a little bit higher, maybe 23.50. But silver, again, no problems here. It's holding up very nicely. Platinum as well. A little bit of an inside bar here, but this can still roll over a little bit, I think, possibly back test. I would say 960, 970 on the daily time frame. But again, platinum, strong name. I like it here. Copper, looks like we're in danger of losing that inside bar. So $3.76 is that low. We got about 45 minutes to close above that. Again, it's not the end of the world. It's still a nice move. You had a power move on the weekly, but it does look like it wants to go down and back test 360, 365 here. But overall, copper, nice move there, and it's getting a little bit of a retrace. All right, flipping over to Bitcoin. No good news here, really. You're starting to put in an inside bar. We've been talking about this over the last couple of days, and it's not really getting out of that right now. So again, really the only positive I can see is that if you get any sort of good news, you could get a nice squeeze. And that's really it. This is not a pattern of strength. It hasn't been for a while. And I think it needs to flush out. So that's kind of been my thesis for quite a while now. And you know, these things do take time to play out. I hate to state the obvious, but I mean, obviously, the news cycle right now is not good. So it's really kind of Bitcoin versus the world right now. But if you do get any sort of good news at all, you could get a nice squeeze. And then, you know, your levels here, you got to get above 19 and then 20. And if you can do that, who knows, maybe you can get back to the 200 moving average. But anyways, Bitcoin putting in a bearish inside bar right here, and it looks like it's just consolidating that pattern currently. Anyways, yeah, back to the spiders. Let's not make too much out of today. Down 75 basis points. We're flagging. There's no problems out here. If we break 390, though, there could be serious problems. I think it would probably take news or something like that to happen. But just watch for that. If that does take place, that would probably trigger a major sell-off. And I'll be watching the semis as well. I don't think Nvidia, it doesn't look like Nvidia is out, but watch the semis as well. They will tell you clues about where the market is headed. Anyways, guys, going to wrap it up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow.